Story time about how I fell in love with my stepdad and married him. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I repeat, this is not my story time. My mom and dad divorced when I was 14 years old. This really affected me and I really wanted to move away from my parents. My mom has a tendency to be really controlling and my dad has always been like a really jealous dad. Like he never let me do anything fun or even let me hang out with boys. After they got divorced, I told my parents that I wanted to go to an art school. But not just any art school, this was a boarding school. I was really eager to get away from my parents and just basically have my own life. While I was in this art school, my mom actually remarried. So this guy became my stepdad. My mom told me that she was really in love with him and that everything was perfect. They would come visit me every now and then, so I did meet him a couple of times. Finally, when I was 18, I graduated and went back home. This is where things get really complicated. My mom owned 2 salons and was never home. My stepdad worked from home and was there all day. This meant that I had to spend a lot of time with him. Every now and then, he would ask me to go to dinner and to the movies, just like hang out. And before I knew it, I was developing feelings. Let me remind you again that I was 18. I knew that this was really bad. I mean, this was my mom's husband. But there was something about him I really liked. That's when he started opening up to me about how controlling my mom was in the relationship and how he was actually thinking of leaving her. Now, trust me, when he told me this, I was like, oh my God. But that's when I realized that he probably liked me too. I mean, we hung out all the time. And the vibes were there. I knew I had to get away, so I decided to go study abroad. But my stepdad and I kept in touch. He would email me and text me all the time. And before I knew it, we were talking every single day. One day I get a message from him saying that he caught my mom cheating. Now, honestly, this didn't surprise me because that's why my mom's relationship with my dad ended. He asked me to come home and I did. And when I saw him again, I realized that I actually was falling in love with him. Part 2 is that's when I realized that I had fallen in love with my stepdad. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I repeat, this is not my story time. At this point, I was 18 years old. He asked me to come home because he found out that my mom was cheating on him. He asked my mom for the divorce and she said yes. Apparently, my mom was actually going to move in with the guy that she was cheating on my stepdad with, which is a whole other story. My stepdad seemed brokenhearted, but at the same time really relieved. And because of this, we actually started spending more and more time together. Once the dust had settled, I decided to go back to school, which was in another country. And the whole time, my ex-stepdad and I kept in contact. We would talk on the phone almost every single day. Finally, when him and my mom were officially divorced, he actually started changing with me. He started going to the gym and even bought himself a new car. Oh yeah, and he got himself a condo. He started sending me selfies of him in the mirror and showing off his abs and stuff like that. At first, I was like, maybe this is innocent, but then I realized that he was definitely flirting with me. On my 20th birthday, I decided to go home and visit my mom. And yes, I knew that I would be seeing my stepdad. My mom and I had dinner and she told me that my stepdad was actually seeing other women. And this made me extremely jealous. My mom noticed it and asked me if I was upset. I said no, but she kept prying. Finally, I confessed to my own mother that I was in love with her ex-husband. Being the drama queen that my mother is, she instantly started to cry and told me that I was trying to ruin her life. She got up from the table and ran out of the restaurant. After that, my mom did not want to take my phone calls. So instead, I went over to my ex-stepdad's house, and I decided to just come out and tell him everything I felt about him. When I finished talking, he actually smiled and hugged me. He told me to just ignore my mom and that everything was going to be fine. He instantly made me feel so much better. And then he told me that he actually had feelings for me too. I mean, I was so happy, but at the same time, I knew that I couldn't be with him because of my mom. I also mentioned to him that my mom said that he was dating a bunch of other women, and he told me that he had been going out on some dates, but that he only ever thought of me. He then asked me if I wanted to give our relationship a shot. I didn't know what else to say except yes, because I was so happy. Then we became boyfriend and girlfriend secretly, part 3 is so my ex-stepdad and I began a secret relationship. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I repeat, this is not my story time. At this point, I was 19 years old, and my ex-stepdad was 47. Since my mom was not speaking to me, I decided to send her an email. And I explained to her that I had every intention to date my ex-stepdad. Finally, a few months later, she called me back. Mind you, my mom had cheated on my ex-stepdad, and that's why they got divorced. And she told me that she would accept the relationship. Then out of nowhere, she told me that I should start planning my wedding. Mind you, I had only been dating my ex-stepdad for a little bit. It feels weird calling him my ex-stepdad, so now I'll just call him my boyfriend. Now the problem is I get judgment from my entire family. My aunts and uncles hate my boyfriend, and I'm pretty sure my mom has been telling them that he's actually a cheater when she was the one that cheated. It's been 2 years now and I'm still with my boyfriend. But he recently asked me if I was open to getting married and I said yes. Now the problem is I don't know what to do about it. We discussed it at length and I basically told him that I think we should elope. He tells me that I'll regret it and that I should have my family there, but I know they hate him. I mean, it is a very weird situation, but they don't understand that I didn't grow up with him. I didn't meet him until I was 18 years old. When my mom found out that we were going to get married, she actually started planning the wedding without my consent. She even tried to pick out my wedding dress and the cake. So 2 weeks ago, my boyfriend and I actually eloped. We're married and literally nobody in my family knows. My mom still thinks she's planning the wedding, and I just don't know how to break it to her that there is no wedding. Should I keep the secret or should I tell my family? I really need help here.
My mom tried to drown this little girl. Story time. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, my family got a pool, so they signed me up for swimming lessons. And I loved everything about the class except for this one girl who we're gonna name Pamela. She was the worst. And every time we had a class, when nobody was looking, she would hold my head underwater for an extremely long time. Now, normally, my dad would take me to my swimming lessons, but this time, my mom ended up taking me. And my mom does not play when it comes to her kids. So during class, Pamela thought nobody was looking, so she started holding me underwater again. However, my mom saw. My mom ends up running over, grabbing me out of the water, and then she grabs Pamela by the head, dunks her under the water, and holds her there for a really long time. Thank God the instructor was there because my babysitter was evil. Story time. When I was a child, I used to have the worst babysitter. And we're gonna name her Miss Cynthia. Now, Miss Cynthia was a lady that you did not want to cross because her punishments were so scary and sometimes dangerous. Like, if we got in trouble, she used to do horrible things, like lock us in the closet, stand on our backs, and she was a heavy woman, so it hurt. But the worst punishment of all was her lemon juice punishment. Now, before this moment, I had no idea what her lemon juice punishment was, but I unfortunately found out. So this one time I got in trouble for not finishing my food fast enough, and Miss Cynthia was so mad. She reached in her purse, grabbed out a little bottle of lemon juice, held me down, and squeezed the lemon juice all over my face, making sure it went into both of my eyes. It hurt so bad. She should be in jail for that. She stapled a note to the back of my head. Story time. So when I was in high school, there was this girl named Crystal, and Crystal had a huge crush on me. Unfortunately, I didn't like her back because, I'm gay. But, that did not stop her from trying to date me. And every day, she would leave me a note on my desk asking me out. And I would always say, sorry, Crystal, I'm gay. And she would just be like, okay, maybe for now you are, but tomorrow you might not be. So naturally, it started to become extremely frustrating. So the last time this happened, I went up to her in the hallway and was like, girl, look, this is not gonna happen. I'm sorry, I do not like girls. I do not like you. I am not interested. Like, play with somebody else, girl. Don't play with me. And as I was walking away, I felt something hit me in the back of the head and it stung so bad. So I reached back there to see what it was, and it was a freaking note that she wrote me stapled to the back of my head. Crazy, bitch. One of these days, I'm gonna fight my uncle. Story time. So my uncle has a really hard time keeping a job. Basically, he gets fired a lot because he has a bad attitude and he's super lazy. And because he's always getting fired, he never has any money, so he has to resort to asking me and my other family members for money all the time. And today he asked if he could stop by to borrow some money from me. And I wasn't going to give it to him at first, but I felt bad because he is my uncle, so I was like, okay, sure, why not? Now, one thing to note about my uncle is that he says he's okay with me being gay, but he still makes little comments that irritate me. So when he gets here, I ask him how much he needs, and he tells me. So I reach into this bag because this is where I had my money at the time. And he was like, can't you keep your money in something else? That bag makes you look feminine. And I was like, can't you keep a job? Begging for handouts makes you look broke. Oh, okay. I thought a broke bitch said something. Let me live.